What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Monday early afternoon. This is NYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm just going to talk about three wide receivers. I'm sure you guys know these names pretty well, that all came out of the 2020 NFL Draft. 3-star wide receivers. Every single one of them are going to be looking for a contract soon. Very soon. One late round first round pick, and the other two early second round picks that are all top of the league wide receivers that might be looking for a nice payday coming into the offseason. And I'm, of course, talking about San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, Indianapolis Colts wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., and Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Tee Higgins. And why am I talking about these three? Well, you can obviously see, as a New York Giant fan, these are three wide receivers that I would not mind trying to acquire during the season. Trying to acquire during the offseason and bringing them in as New York Giants priorities as very good number one receivers. Because I do believe, in my opinion, each one of these guys are number ones. In my opinion, I believe they're all number one receivers, especially when they have top-level quarterbacks. First, I'm going to start with Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk comes out of the University of Arizona State. He was a first-round pick at pick number 25 by the San Francisco 49ers. Brandon Aiyuk stands at about 6 foot, 200 pounds overall. Does it kind of remember you guys of a certain wide receiver that used to play with the New York Giants all the way back, drafted him in 2009 in the top 10, Mr. Hakeem Nicks, 6 foot, 200 plus pounds? That's Brandon Aiyuk right here. Aiyuk is the type of wide receiver that knows how to create separation, has good speed on the outside, can make the tough catches over the middle. He's also a physical wide receiver that can also pick up some yards after the catch as well. And the guy is a very good player. Now, most people might look at him and say, "Whoa, he's got Deebo Samuel on the other side. He's got George Kittle. That's why he's so good." I disagree. I think if Brandon Aiyuk was the number one receiver on this team, I still believe he'd be able to be a very successful player. Because when Kittle and Samuel were dealing with injuries a couple of years ago, Aiyuk was putting up very good numbers as a number one. In fact, over his career with the San Francisco 49ers, over his first 3 years of his career, Aiyuk has played in 46 games overall, starting 44, where he's had 194 receptions for 2,589 yards with a 13.4 yards per catch average. His longest reception in his career was 54 yards. He has 18 total touchdowns and 13 total attempts. He's also rushed for 13 attempts for 107 yards with a 9 average overall. His longest rush was 38 yards with 2 touchdowns overall. He has fumbled the ball 3 times over his career in the past 3 years and has lost 2 of them. But Aiyuk is a tremendous wide receiver with big-time yards after the catch ability. This guy is tremendous overall. And I would be very happy if the New York Giants could find a way to bring in a guy like Brandon Aiyuk through a trade. What would you trade for him? Would you trade a second-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk? His might be a little bit more tricky than the other two guys because I think they could wait on trying to pay Aiyuk because he would be going to his 4th year. You'd have to pick up his 5th-year option, though, with Aiyuk. But he's becoming a player that could be a prime trade candidate in this offseason. But that's one player I would definitely look to try to acquire. Maybe for a 2nd-round pick, 3rd-round pick, the worst. But Aiyuk is a tremendous player overall. Now I'm going to go to another good wide receiver. And that, of course, is the former USC Trojan wide receiver, son of former, I believe, New York Giants running back Michael Pittman. Used to play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. Now, Michael Pittman Jr., he's a big receiver, 6'4", 223-pound wide receiver who was drafted with the the 34th pick in the 2nd round back in 2020. Michael Pittman Jr. is another terrific, tall wide receiver. Now, you might look at his numbers and they might not look as impressive. But at the same time, this guy's a tremendous player. He is a little bit older. He's 25 years old. He came out as a senior in 2020, whereas Aiyuk and the other guy I'm going to talk about, Tee Higgins, they came out as juniors. Michael Pittman Jr. stayed for an extra year. Like I said, 6'4", 223 pounds. But this guy is a tremendous wide receiver too. In 46 total games for Pittman, another guy that doesn't miss a lot of games. He started 41. He's had 227 receptions for 2,510 yards in his career with an 11.4 yards per catch. His 57 yards was his longest catch of his career. He has 11 touchdowns overall. He's also rushed 11 times for 100 yards, 9.1 yards per his longest rush, or 9.1 yards for average rush. 25 is his long. He has no touchdowns. He has fumbled the ball 3 times and lost 1. But you have to think about the quarterbacks that Pittman has had over there in Indianapolis. I mean, he's had the likes of Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, Matt Ryan, and Carson Wentz. These are not exactly quarterbacks either at the prime of their careers or all-star studs. And he's still putting up tremendous numbers. I absolutely would trade at least a second or third round pick for Michael Pittman. You can kill me all you want. Pittman's a good receiver. He really is. He just doesn't get as much acclaim because of the fact that he hasn't had great quarterback play around him. And then you want to go to the top of my list. And you don't go any further than this guy. His team got eliminated last night. But a lot of Giants fans, including myself, shout out to Coach Ed Gladney, Debating World Sports, NYG22, aka Mr. Unpopular Opinion Sports, Mr. GiantsNation Inside Sports, Classified 3F with Joel, of course, Big Pat Sports Talk, can't forget about you too, buddy. Tee Higgins. Every Giants fan has had their eyes on Tee Higgins. This dude is the number one target the Giants should go after. The former Clemson Tiger wide receiver, also drafted in 2020. He was the 33rd overall pick. He was the pick right before the Colts took Michael Pittman Jr. in 2020. Tee Higgins is absolutely tremendous, a wide receiver. Tremendous. Also, another 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver, 24 years old, 3-year experience. Tee Higgins has had a tremendous career too. And he's been the best of the 3. That's why I saved him for last. Tee Higgins has not missed any games as well. Not missed very many. 46 games so far for Tee Higgins. 42 games started. He has 215 receptions for 3,028 yards. 14.1 yards per reception. 67 yards is his longest catch. He has 19 total touchdowns. He's also had 5 attempts rushing for 28 yards with a 5.6 yards per rush. His long was 13. He has no touchdowns though. 2 fumbles and 2 fumbles lost. So he's had 2 fumbles in his career and lost both. This guy is consistently hovering around or over 1,000 yards receiving every single year of his career. And some people argue, well, he's got Tyler Boyd. He's got Jamar Chase. He's got Joe Mixon in the backfield. He's got Joe Burrow throwing the ball to him. Don't underestimate how good Tee Higgins is. And if you want to talk about one receiver I debate giving up a first-round pick for, it's this man right here because he's 24 years old. And he's going to get paid because him and Pittman are going to get paid because they're going into their last year of their contracts. The Colts might have a better chance of paying Pittman because of the fact that they don't have any other star players on that team. You got to maybe think about Jonathan Taylor, but they don't have a quarterback right now that's going to be worth paying money. Whereas you look at the Bengals, you got to think about paying. Joe Burrow is going to get his money this offseason. Joe Burrow is going to get his money. Jamar Chase is going into his 3rd year next year. And you have to argue that Chase is eventually going to have to get paid. Are you going to be able to pay Tyler Boyd, who's under a contract right now. Give big money to Tee Higgins. Also give a lot of money to Joe Burrow for what he's going to make. And then you have to worry about paying Jamar Chase. Somebody's going to have to go out of that group. You can't pay all of these guys because you have some defensive players that are getting paid too, and you can't allocate all your money on the offensive side. This is the guy I would look at. Joe Shane, pick up the phone, call up Cincinnati, like we've all said, and ask what it will take to acquire Tee Higgins. This guy is a phenomenal receiver. Speed on the outside, good route running, can pluck the ball out of the air, 50-50 back shoulder wide receiver, 6'4", 220 pounds. And a number one wide receiver. I would want any one of these three. I like all three of them. I have liked all three of them since they were in college. All three of them have been tremendous since they came out of that 2020 draft. Ironically, the same draft that Justin Jefferson came out of. You want to talk about two great wide receiver drafts? All you got to do is look at 2020 and 2021 and the wide receivers that have come out of that draft. I mean, 2020, Brandon Aiyuk, Michael Pittman Jr., Tee Higgins, Justin Jefferson. 4 great receivers out of that draft. Then you look at 2021, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I would have thrown in Justin Jefferson, but I don't see any way possible the Vikings are going to let him go. He would be at the top of my list if that was even vehemently possible. But Tee Higgins is the guy I would want the most out of these three, as anybody else. Now, the Giants have some big free agents that they have to try to lock up, as we all know. Daniel Jones is going to get a contract. Saquon Barkley. They're going to look to lock up Julian Love, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Jahad Ward, Nick Gates, maybe. All these guys are going to come back and potentially get money. But would you sacrifice some of these players to bring in a quality, number one bona fide wide receiver who's still young in Tee Higgins and add him to that repertoire? The Giants are going to have a fascinating offseason, but this is going to be one of the biggest questions right here. What do you do at wide receiver? And for me, call it a ballsy look. I'm going for Tee Higgins. I'm going to call up Cincinnati, and I'm going for Tee Higgins. As every one of my guys in the Big Blue crew have said too. So you guys let me know in the comment section what you think about these 3 wide receivers I've gone over in this chat. Brandon Aiyuk, Michael Pittman Jr., and Tee Higgins. All 3 in the 2020 draft. Brandon Aiyuk, pick number 25 in the first round. Michael Pittman Jr., Tee Higgins, second round, the pick number 33, and then Michael Pittman Jr., the pick right after at 34. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. If you would trade for either one of these 3 wide receivers. And put your comments in the reason why you would, why you wouldn't, what it will take, and if they will vehemently upgrade the wide receiver core, and if you believe they are number 1 wide receivers. Let me know in the comment section. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Take it easy, and let's go New York Football Giants. As always, together blue, everyone.